My name is Daniel Clark. I'm 42 years old. And for nearly 2 decades, I was the backbone of a company that eventually decided I was just an outdated part. But the day they let me go, the very same day they handed over the keys to the guy I trained, the systems I built began to fail. One by one. Exactly how I'd planned it. I didn't scream. I didn't sabotage anything illegally. I just did what they asked. They told me to train my replacement. So I trained him. Just enough to sink the ship. Let me back up. I've always been a builder. Not the kind with bricks and hammers, but the kind who builds things no one ever sees. Code. Systems. Infrastructure. I was employee number 11 at a small tech firm based out of Austin, Texas. Back then, our office was basically a dusty rented floor above a dry cleaner. But over the next 18 years, I built that company from the inside out. Wrote every line of back-end code, designed every server protocol, mentored every junior dev that walked through our doors. People used to joke that if I ever left, the company would fall apart. I used to laugh. Now, I wonder if they still laugh about that. I wasn't flashy. I never went for the spotlight. I worked weekends, pulled 14-hour days during migrations, and kept a picture of my daughter next to my desk to remind me why I did it all. They never had to worry about me. No drama. No office politics. Just solid, loyal work. But loyalty. Loyalty means nothing when a new management team wants to modernize the company image. They didn't say it outright. But when they introduced Lucas, a 29-year-old efficiency consultant with no dev experience, I saw the writing on the wall. And then came the moment that flipped everything for me. My boss, the guy I'd worked under for 12 years, called me into a meeting. Just me and him. He smiled, patted me on the back, and said, "You're a legend here, Dan. That's why I need your help. We've hired Lucas as a future leader, and we want you to train him. Make sure he knows everything you do." Everything I do? That was the moment I stopped being an employee and quietly started becoming their biggest liability. They thought I was just a loyal old dog. But what they didn't know was that I was the architect of every system they ran. And if you're going to steal a man's life's work, you better hope he doesn't know how to turn it all to dust. Part 2 picks up with warm backstory and subtle warning signs. Before everything went sideways, my life was simple, predictable, and honestly, I liked it that way. I'd get to the office before sunrise, long before anyone else. The cleaning staff knew me by name. Coffee in hand, hoodie on, screens glowing in the quiet, that was my peace. While most people dreaded Mondays, I lived for them. I wasn't just doing a job. I was solving puzzles, building systems that made the entire company run smoother. When I first joined, we didn't even have a proper database. I built the original architecture on my personal laptop. Spent 3 straight weekends getting it off the ground. No overtime, no complaints. Back then, our CEO, Martin, used to bring me coffee and thank me for every fix. Those days felt honest, personal, real, and outside of work. It was just me and my daughter, Ellie. My wife passed away 4 years ago. Car accident. Drunk driver, broad daylight. That broke something in me I don't think I'll ever fully repair. But Ellie was only 9 at the time. She needed me to stay strong. So I buried myself in work and gave her everything I could. She's a teenager now. Smarter than me for sure. Makes fun of my outdated phone and still insists I don't know how to use Spotify properly. But she's my world. Always has been. I worked those long hours, so she'd never feel the absence we both lived with. And for a while, things made sense. I was the guy everyone came to when stuff broke. People respected me, trusted me. I trained most of our current engineering team from scratch. I knew everyone's workstation, everyone's habits, even had a hand in writing HR's internal ticketing system, just because I was bored one summer. But then came the buyout. A bigger tech conglomerate acquired us. At first, it felt like a win, bonuses, better equipment, new faces. But within 6 months, the tone changed. The people in charge weren't tech folks. They were brand consultants, culture reshapers, efficiency experts, with MBAs and zero understanding of how this company was even standing in the first place. They started using words like modernize, streamline, and reduce legacy bloat. And even though no one said it out loud, I could see it in the way they looked at me. I was legacy, the old system, a loyal dog from the past they didn't need anymore. That's when they brought in Lucas. I first met him during a Monday morning meeting. He was sitting in my usual seat at the head of the tech table. No one told me he'd be joining. He just smiled, shook my hand, and said, "Heard you're the wizard behind all this. I'll be learning from you soon." Something about his tone made my skin crawl. He wasn't here to learn. He was here to replace. And at first, I tried to give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was just ambitious. Maybe he just didn't understand the depth of what we'd built. So I kept doing my work. Kept showing up early, fixing bugs before they became problems, mentoring the junior devs like always. But little things started happening. My admin access was reduced. Accidentally. Certain email threads stopped including me. A new dev build was pushed without my sign-off, for the first time in 8 years. Then one night, I was working late when I overheard Lucas on a call. He didn't see me behind the server room door. "Yeah, the guy's brilliant, no doubt. But he's slow. Old school. They're planning to phase him out soon anyway. I'm just here to absorb what I can before that." That was the moment something inside me shifted. I'd given this company everything. I built it like it was my second home. And now they were handing me a ticking clock and smiling while they did it. And then came the meeting. My boss, the same guy who used to toast me at every company anniversary, smiled like nothing was wrong and told me flat out, "We want you to train Lucas. Start downloading everything you know. Treat him like your successor." Successor? No. He wasn't going to be my successor. He was going to be my revenge story. From the outside, nothing had changed. I still had my desk. My ID badge still worked. People still greeted me in the hallway like I was just Dan. Reliable, dependable Dan. But behind the scenes, the floor was shifting beneath me. Lucas became a shadow. He followed me everywhere, watched me code, took screenshots of tools I'd spent years customizing, even asked questions that made no real sense. Like he was just checking boxes. Not learning, just gathering. At first, I answered him honestly. I gave him what he asked for. But slowly, I noticed he wasn't really retaining anything. He was writing things down just to say he had, then disappearing into meetings I was never invited to. The developers I once mentored started getting pulled into alignment sessions without me. Whole modules of code were being adjusted without so much as a Slack message. I found out they were working from a revised roadmap, a version I'd never seen. Lucas was calling it Phase 2, and I hadn't even been told there was a Phase 1. One evening, while staying late to debug a deployment issue, I noticed something strange in the system logs. Lucas had been accessing root directories I never showed him, not through official channels, but by cloning old permissions. Ones I had archived years ago. Sloppy, but deliberate. I didn't say a word. Instead, I started documenting everything. Every email that skipped me. Every commit he pushed behind closed doors. Every time he bragged to someone in the break room that things were about to change around here. And the worst part? My boss, Michael, stopped looking me in the eye. He used to do walk-bys, tap my shoulder, ask about Ellie. Now, he just waved from a distance, if at all. Like he already knew I wouldn't be around much longer, and wanted to get a head start on pretending I didn't exist. But the breaking point wasn't technical. It was personal. One afternoon, I overheard Lucas talking to our new HR coordinator. She had no idea I was in the room next door, behind the frosted glass wall. He said, and I quote, "I don't get why everyone's so scared of Dan. He's a nice guy, sure, but he's not irreplaceable. This whole system? Outdated. Once I'm done cleaning it up, we'll finally be efficient around here. Just watch." That hit different. Not because it was arrogant, I could have handled that, but because it was strategic. He wasn't just replacing me. He was erasing me. Piece by piece, line by line, email by email, my entire legacy was being overwritten by someone who barely understood what he was doing. That's when I started watching him, really watching. He had no clue how deep the systems ran. No idea that half the features he thought were clunky were actually deliberate failsafes I'd built to protect data integrity. He didn't realize that his shiny new UI was dependent on hidden scripts I'd authored 5 years ago. Scripts he never even touched. I began to see the gaps. The places where, if I stepped away, he'd fall flat. And then I started thinking, what if I let him? What if I gave him exactly what he thought he wanted? Just enough information to look competent, but never enough to actually be in control. And slowly, the plan began forming. I stopped fighting, stopped correcting his mistakes, smiled through every meeting and said, "Great idea, Lucas. You've got it handled." I made him feel confident, comfortable, in charge. Because the more sure he was of himself, the harder he would fall. And when he finally did, he wouldn't even know where to begin picking up the pieces. It happened on a Tuesday. The kind of day where everything feels routine. Same coffee, same desk, same silence in the hallway. But what I saw that day, it changed everything. I was walking past the print room when I saw the printer blinking. No one was around, but a document had just finished printing, pages still warm. Out of habit, I leaned over to see what someone left behind. It was a termination letter. Mine. Daniel Clark. Final working day, June 30th. That was 3 weeks away. No conversation. No warning. No exit interview. Just a pre-written goodbye sitting on a tray like it meant nothing. And the signature at the bottom? Michael. The same boss who told me I was irreplaceable. The same man who asked me to help shape the future. I stood there for a full minute. Frozen. Not angry. Not emotional. Just cold. Because it wasn't just a termination letter. It was proof. Proof that everything Lucas had been saying behind my back was real. Proof that I wasn't paranoid. I was being systematically removed. And the worst part? The print timestamp said 8:13 a.m., meaning it had been sitting there for hours. Anyone could have seen it. Hell, maybe that was the point. Maybe they wanted me to find it, so I'd leave early, save them the trouble, walk out with my head down like so many others before me. But they forgot one thing. I wasn't just another employee. I was the guy who built the machine they were running. And I knew exactly where to stick the wrench. That night, I went home, poured myself a drink, and sat in silence for a long time. Ellie was at a friend's place, which gave me space to think. I opened my old backup drive, the one I hadn't touched in years. On it were all the legacy frameworks, database forks, and encrypted toolsets I had built, the real tools. The ones that Lucas would never understand, even if he stared at the code for a year. I didn't rage. I didn't rant. I just started planning. If they wanted me gone, I wouldn't stop them. I'd even smile on my way out. But before I left, I'd make sure the person they were betting the entire company on was standing on a trap door. After I found the termination letter, I stopped being an employee. I became something else, an observer, a ghost, someone who smiled just enough to seem harmless, while quietly preparing the stage for the main event. I went into the office the next morning like nothing happened, greeted Lucas like always, even laughed at one of his terrible jokes. Inside, I was cold steel. The first step was simple: control the narrative. Lucas thought he was learning from me, absorbing everything I know. But what I started giving him was a carefully edited version of reality. Shallow tutorials, outdated documentation, and simplified access scripts that looked legit but were completely hollow inside. He never noticed the difference. I told him the most critical backup processes had been fully automated. They hadn't. I told him our database schema used redundant mirroring. It didn't. I told him the sandbox server was identical to production. It wasn't. It hadn't been in 5 years. Every lie was precise, subtle, untraceable. And while I fed him noise, I started building something real, a hidden failsafe buried deep within the infrastructure. It was elegant, a logic bomb triggered by incompetence. It wouldn't destroy anything. I wasn't there to break laws or hurt clients. I just wanted one very specific thing: expose the weakness they hired. I wrote a smart script that would quietly monitor usage. Every time Lucas executed a command he didn't fully understand, the system would mark it. When those markers hit a certain threshold, the environment would auto-disable access to root recovery files and reroute error logs to dead paths. Translation? When things went sideways, he wouldn't even know where to look for help. In the meantime, I started encrypting and isolating key assets, logins, audit trails, authentication keys. Everything that had once been in shared folders was now stored in a local vault only I could unlock. I backed up that vault twice. Then I had the entire system send a shadow copy to my legal contact, timestamped and sealed, with clear documentation on who built what and when. If they ever tried to accuse me of sabotage, I had full transparency and legal proof that everything was done before my departure. I wasn't destroying anything. I was just walking away and letting their overconfidence handle the rest. Lucas was too arrogant to see it. He started getting cocky in meetings, talking over people. He even pitched a full rebrand of our internal architecture, renaming modules I personally wrote without understanding what they did. I acted impressed, even encouraged it. "Good thinking, Lucas. We probably should modernize," I said one day. He nodded like he just solved world hunger. And all the while, the trap got tighter. The Friday before my official departure, I brought donuts. The good kind, locally made, warm, with real cinnamon sugar. Everyone thanked me. Lucas clapped me on the back and said, "Gonna miss having you around, old man." I just smiled and said, "Company's in good hands, right?" He grinned and nodded. And that's when I knew. He'd learned just enough. Just enough to feel confident. Just enough to look competent. But not nearly enough to stop what was coming. My last day came and went without fanfare. No speech. No send-off. Just a few handshakes, a forced smile from Michael, and a lazy, "Keep in touch," from HR. Lucas gave me a half-hearted salute like he was finally free from my shadow. I left my badge on the desk and walked out. But what they didn't realize was that I'd already programmed my farewell long before I left the building. 2 weeks later, it happened. Monday morning, 10:03 a.m. Lucas was mid-presentation with a high-profile client. I wasn't there, but one of my old team members texted me a single word. "It's starting." I opened my laptop, leaned back, and watched. The internal systems began glitching. Slow at first, just delays in data pulls and unusual lag. Then, error screens. Login loops. Backend reports showing access denied for Lucas on systems he swore were streamlined. The production database failed to sync. The sandbox environment, the one Lucas believed was identical to live, began auto-pushing dummy data into real-time fields. Client dashboards froze. Support tickets tripled in 30 minutes. And Lucas? He panicked. He started rewriting deployment commands manually, not realizing he was triggering deception layers I had hidden, layers designed to simulate fixes, while actually scrambling logs behind the scenes. He called IT. They couldn't help. He called one of the junior devs I trained. They told him, "Only Dan knew how to fix this kind of issue." But I was gone. And then came the moment of silence. Boardroom. Executive team. Emergency meeting. Lucas stood there, red-faced, sweaty, blaming legacy issues and bad documentation. Michael asked him for the recovery path. Lucas opened his laptop, ran the script I had personally written, and watched as a wall of red error messages appeared, one after the other. Route not found. Access path invalid. Permission denied. Recovery key required. The final message? Operation blocked. Please contact system architect, Daniel Clark. The room, I'm told, went completely still. That afternoon, my attorney received a call from the company's legal department. They wanted the recovery files. They wanted to rebuild the trust and bring me back in as a consultant. My lawyer's response was simple. Daniel is willing to cooperate, but he'll require an apology and triple his severance. They refused. So the system stayed broken for 4 more days. On day 5, they gave in. I received a formal written apology signed by Michael and 2 board members. They wired the money within the hour. I emailed them a single file. 1 script. 1 key. Everything came back online in under 12 minutes. But the damage was done. The client they embarrassed during the crash pulled their $9.2 million contract. The board launched an internal audit, and guess what they found? Lucas had lied on his resume, fabricated projects, and exaggerated his credentials. All the flags I quietly collected? My lawyer had packaged them in a neat little PDF and sent it anonymously to the board 3 days prior. He was fired within the week. The CTO who supported him resigned shortly after. And Michael? He was transitioned to an advisory role, which we all know means they kicked him out quietly. And me? I didn't go back. I didn't want to. Because revenge wasn't about returning. It was about making sure they knew exactly who they underestimated. They treated me like a relic. But I was the foundation. And when you remove a foundation without understanding how it holds everything together, the entire thing collapses. It's been almost a year since that final crash. Sometimes I still get calls from people inside the company, the ones who stuck around. They say things are quieter now, slower, less efficient. Apparently, they're still trying to rebuild parts of the infrastructure I designed from scratch, and no one knows how I made it work so seamlessly. I don't tell them. I just smile and say, "Hope it's all going well," because I'm done fixing things for people who saw me as disposable. These days, I work on my own terms. I picked up a few freelance consulting contracts, mostly with smaller startups, who actually respect experience. I even started a little side business with an old dev buddy, building secure systems for nonprofits and local hospitals. No drama. No office politics. Just clean code and clean purpose. More importantly, I have time now. Time to actually live. Ellie just turned 16. I didn't miss her birthday this year. Didn't have to cancel dinner. Didn't have to bring my laptop to her recital. We built a PC together last month. She chose the parts. I showed her how to install them. We even made it glow purple, her favorite color. She looked at me afterward and said, "You're happier now." And you know what? She was right. Sometimes, late at night, I replay it all. Not out of anger. Not even out of pride. But as a reminder. Because for a long time, I thought loyalty was supposed to be permanent. That if you just kept your head down, worked hard, and stayed humble, people would protect you, value you. But that's not how it works. In the corporate world, loyalty is a currency, and once they think they've used it all up, they toss you like expired credit. But dignity? That's different. Dignity is yours to protect. And when someone tries to rob you of it, quietly, without warning, with a smile on their face, you don't yell. You don't beg. You outthink them. You remind them that the quiet ones are often the ones who built everything they're standing on. Droplet final emotional line. They erased my name from the system logs, but they couldn't erase the fingerprints I left behind. They took my job, but they didn't take my soul. And from that, I rebuilt something stronger, not for revenge, not for recognition, but for me. If you've ever been overlooked, if someone ever tried to replace you before they understood you, hit that subscribe button. And remember, sometimes the most dangerous man in the room is the one who says nothing.